My sister slept with my husband and got pregnant at the same time. I gave him divorce papers because he wanted to leave us and go to Thailand with another woman. Hey everyone, I've noticed many of you sharing your stories and receiving helpful advice here, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Hold on tight because this is quite a ride. So for some background, I'm a 30-year-old woman and I've been married to my soon-to-be ex-husband Matt, who's 33 for almost 6 years. I run my own business, making handmade soaps and candles. I've poured my heart and soul into building it from scratch, and I take immense pride in what I've accomplished. Things were going well until about 2 months ago when my world came crashing down. I discovered that Matt was cheating on me with my younger sister Grace. Yes, you read that right. I'll delve into the details later, but needless to say, I was devastated. Little did I know that was just the beginning. Let me give you some backstory. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, and Grace, who's 20, is the youngest. She came as a bit of a surprise to our family, being nearly a decade younger than me. From the moment she was born, I adored her. When I first laid eyes on her, I already had a younger brother, but deep down I really wished for a sister. So when Grace came home, being so much younger than me, I naturally took on a role almost like a second mother to her. I doted on her constantly, feeding her, bathing her, and even using my pocket money to buy her things. She was the cutest baby, and I convinced my dad to get me a digital camera so I could capture every moment and create a scrapbook. My love for her knew no bounds, and I was willing to do anything to ensure her happiness. As we grew older and I started earning money, I spoiled her with toys, books, and clothes. I'd eagerly pick her up from school every day, and our weekends were filled with watching Gilmore Girls, indulging in ice cream and popcorn, and browsing the aisles of the bookstore. Those were some of the happiest days of my life. Even then, I could sense that Grace cherished our bond as much as I did. Our connection felt unbreakable, but then things began to change. When I left for college, it was in a different state, so I could only manage to visit home during breaks. I missed everyone dearly, especially Grace, and I hated the thought of missing out on such a big part of her childhood. College life brought me a newfound sense of freedom, and I thrived in this environment. Away from my parents for the first time, I embraced the typical college experiences, like attending frat parties with my girlfriends. It was at one of these parties where I met Matt. He was actually the DJ, and I thought he was the coolest guy ever with his tattoos, shoulder-length hair, and undeniable charisma. We hit it off right away and spent the night partying together. After exchanging numbers, I learned that he was a student at my college, a few years older than me. We texted and met up a few times, and I found myself completely taken with him. He was funny, intelligent, and easy to talk to, not to mention quite easy on the eyes. Looking back, I realized he could be a bit stubborn and overbearing, but in the midst of my infatuation, I didn't notice it at the time. Sometimes I look back and wonder why I was so fixated on him, especially when he was only putting in minimal effort and wasn't as amazing as I believed. But then I realized that when you're young and in love, you tend to overlook these things, only to face them later on. Anyway, we went on a few dates, and before I knew it, we were officially a couple and things seemed great. After he graduated, we moved in together. Matt and I made a great team. We found a small apartment near my campus, making it convenient for me to attend classes. Matt landed an internship at a tech company while I started working part-time at a campus eatery. Money was tight and bills were a struggle, but we were happy. I felt like a real adult, and Matt supported me in every way possible. He'd cook breakfast, help me study, and even pull all-nighters before exams. Despite having work the next day, I couldn't believe I had found such a perfect partner who made me feel loved and valued, unlike anyone before him. Whenever we went out, Matt proudly introduced me as the love of his life. He'd even boast about me at his work parties, sometimes overwhelming me with his affection. He seemed truly devoted to me, or at least that's how it felt. Matt finally met my family the weekend I graduated, and they had already heard so much about him. Before that call, I had spoken to him many times, but we hadn't met in person until then. At that point, we were fully committed, even sharing a bank account. My family absolutely adored him, especially my hard-to-please dad, who had never approved of my previous boyfriends, but Matt won him over completely. Although my parents were a bit upset that I hadn't told them about moving in with Matt, they could see how well he treated me, so they weren't too angry. I was ecstatic to have Grace visit me at college for the first time. She was almost 13 and had a blast chatting with my friends and professors. It was obvious she liked Matt too. She'd get shy and fidgety whenever he was around. Over that weekend, Matt charmed my entire family, which was a huge relief because I genuinely loved him and wanted our relationship to last forever. After graduating, I started working as a personal assistant at the same company where Matt worked, which worked out perfectly for us. About a year later, after dating for 4 years, years, Matt proposed in a beautiful way that left me overjoyed. Of course, I said yes. When we returned home, I was surprised to find our closest friends, along with my parents and siblings, waiting to celebrate our engagement. Matt had even decorated our apartment. Later, I found out he had flown my family down just for this special occasion. I truly felt like I had found my soulmate. We got married less than a year later, and it was a beautiful ceremony. Grace was my maid of honor. We were able to save up enough money to upgrade to a bigger apartment, and we even adopted a cat together. As time went on, I felt incredibly fortunate to have such an amazing husband who took wonderful care of me and made me feel like royalty. My career was flourishing, and he had also been promoted. We began discussing the idea of starting a family. However, things weren't going so smoothly with Grace. She went through a significant change after her best friend, who was like a sister to her, tragically passed away. It hit her hard and she was inconsolable. I rushed home to support her, but she was struggling immensely. She stopped talking, stopped eating, and seemed to withdraw from the world. We gave her space and time to grieve, but her condition didn't improve. Even after months, it became apparent that she was depressed, especially since she was only 15 and dealing with such devastating circumstances. Despite my concerns, my parents were hesitant about putting her in therapy and believed she needed more time to heal. Eventually, she began to open up a bit more and leave her room, but it was clear that the vibrant, energetic Grace I knew was gone. Her condition continued to deteriorate, and I grew increasingly worried about her well-being. Soon, my mom began calling me, sharing troubling news about Grace. She was hanging out with older boys who drank alcohol and did drugs, and my mom even caught her smoking. This behavior was completely out of character for her. When Matt and I visited home one Christmas, things took a turn for the worse. I could visibly see the change in Grace's demeanor. Her style, speech, and actions had drastically shifted. She was disrespectful and behaving like a completely different person. I tried talking to her, hoping she would confide in me as she always had, but she shut me out completely. She insisted that I couldn't understand her pain and demanded to be left alone. When I confronted her about it, a heated argument erupted. She refused to acknowledge the need for therapy, and tensions escalated until only Matt could calm her down. Later that evening, Grace left for a friend's house to relax but didn't return home. As the night wore on, my panic grew. I was about to call all her friends when her boyfriend, who was significantly older than her, informed us that Grace had overdosed on pills. My heart sank as we rushed her to the hospital, where they managed to revive her. We later learned that Grace had turned to drugs to numb the pain of her friend's death. Determined to prevent a recurrence, we immediately enrolled her in therapy. It was a harrowing experience, but I was grateful she was getting help. Just a few months later, I received another dreaded call. Grace had overdosed again. Miraculously, she survived, but it was clear she needed more intensive care. We decided to admit her to rehab, hoping she would emerge clean and start anew. However, it became dishearteningly evident that she was trapped in a cycle of addiction. Despite our efforts, she kept relapsing, pushing us further away each time. After numerous unsuccessful attempts to help her, I reached my breaking point. It might sound selfish, but I had to prioritize my own well-being. That became my anchor during this tumultuous period, acting as a mediator between Grace and me. He listened, offered support, and remained patient throughout. With his encouragement, I refocused on my career, and we began trying for a baby. Despite trying for a year, we struggled to conceive. I was diagnosed with PCOS, which made natural pregnancy difficult but not impossible. Initially hopeful, as time passed, I sank into depression. The desire to become a mother weighed heavily on me, and my inability to conceive despite efforts left me feeling defeated. This affected my work, and eventually I quit, feeling like I had failed as a woman. Matt never blamed or pressured me, but finding other jobs proved futile, so I decided to pursue my passion for handmade soaps, a hobby I'd enjoyed for years. Starting with selling to friends and neighbors, the business gradually grew, especially after a friend's daughter promoted it on TikTok. Finally turning a profit, I regained a sense of purpose and stopped fixating on getting pregnant. Matt also seemed happier, claiming he had been promoted and taking more business trips. However, 2 months ago, everything changed. While Matt was away on a trip, I visited my parents to reconcile with Grace. Upon returning, I learned Grace had moved out, and upon visiting her, I found Matt at her doorstep, half-dressed. Both looked guilty, claiming he was just visiting for work, but I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The shock of discovering my husband's infidelity with my own sister left me reeling, unable to comprehend the situation. The worst was yet to come in my tumultuous state of mind. I was so overwhelmed with shock and disgust that I didn't even realize Grace was pregnant until she looked about 4 to 5 months along. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, and I felt so nauseated that I nearly fainted. The situation escalated quickly, and the neighbors called an ambulance to rush me to the emergency room. Throughout the ordeal, I was in a state of disbelief, as if I had entered a trance where nothing anyone said mattered anymore. But the shock didn't end there. In the emergency room, the tests revealed another bombshell. I was pregnant too, about 2 months along. It was surreal. After years of trying to conceive, the day I discovered my husband of nearly 6 years was cheating on me with my own sister and had gotten her pregnant, I found out I was expecting too. It felt like a twisted joke, but unfortunately it was my reality. When my parents arrived, they were equally stunned by the news. Matt and Grace eventually showed up, but instead of offering explanations, Matt dropped another bombshell. He confessed he no longer loved me and intended to marry Grace. I was overcome with another wave of nausea as Grace admitted they had been together for over a year and that Matt had been planning to divorce me but hadn't found the right time to break the news. They claimed their relationship had started as a friendship but quickly turned into something more, especially after Matt assured Grace he would end our marriage. Despite everything, Grace chose to continue her relationship with Matt and fulfill his desire for a baby. I was in disbelief. Matt had always seemed supportive and loyal, never showing any signs of trouble in our marriage. Even when I dropped him off at the airport a few days ago, he kissed me and professed his love as he always did. I had no inkling of his true feelings, leaving me completely blindsided. My emotions were a whirlwind, and amidst the chaos, one thing was clear. I wanted nothing to do with Matt or Grace ever again. My heart was shattered beyond repair. When I informed Matt of my pregnancy, he was shocked but remained firm in his desire to be with Grace. The whole situation disgusted me, especially considering Matt had known Grace since she was a child, which felt unsettlingly creepy. I decided to stay with my parents for a while due to the high-risk nature of the pregnancy. Despite my turmoil, friends and relatives rallied around me, showing overwhelming support for the baby with gifts of toys, clothes, and strollers. Shockingly, Matt and Grace never reached out to apologize. The only time Matt contacted me was to ask for things for his baby with Grace, as their family had been ostracized due to their actions. Despite the overwhelming support they had received, Matt and Grace had not reciprocated a single gesture. Matt claimed that he and Grace felt as though they were being punished and insisted that their baby deserved just as much as mine did. I was appalled by their audacity. These individuals had shattered my life, yet they had the nerve to ask me to purchase items for them. Disgusted, Matt cut off all contact with me in the following weeks, ignoring my attempts to discuss the situation further. Meanwhile, Grace had been deceiving my parents, telling them about a loving boyfriend whenever they inquired. Little did they know it was actually Matt. It infuriated me to think how he had manipulated my emotionally vulnerable sister, convincing her that I was the problem and he was blameless. Grace's betrayal stung even more deeply than Matt's. After 2 weeks of unsuccessful attempts to reach Matt, I decided to involve lawyers and proceed with filing for divorce. However, just before taking this step, I received an anonymous email claiming to have crucial information about Matt. Initially skeptical, I couldn't resist the curiosity and responded. The email contained a link to a folder containing photos, phone conversations, bank statements, and other documents exposing Matt's deceit. It revealed that Matt had lost his job over 2 years prior and had accumulated significant debt from moneylenders. He had been planning to flee to Thailand with another girlfriend, evading his debts and starting a new life with her. The evidence showed that he had been meticulously planning this escape for months, secretly purchasing plane tickets and obtaining a work permit. My jaw dropped in disbelief. I couldn't fathom that Matt could be capable of such deceit. Yet the evidence before me was undeniable. Every conversation with moneylenders pleading for more time, discussions with his girlfriend about marriage, never once mentioning he was already married, bank statements, plane tickets, and visas, it was all there. Matt had convinced my sister that he loved her and would stay with her while secretly planning to abandon us all. Enough was enough. I printed out all the incriminating evidence and sealed it in an envelope. After discussing with my parents, I finally reached out to my lawyers and disclosed everything. Despite objections and excuses, my lawyers managed to arrange a meeting with Matt. When we finally met, I was relieved to see that he had brought Grace along. Without hesitation, Matt began to belittle me, claiming he no longer loved me and accusing me of leeching off him. I laughed as I handed him the envelope containing all the proof he'd ever need. His expression turned pale as he sifted through the documents. I disclosed everything to Grace, revealing how Matt had planned to deceive her. Matt tried to deflect blame, accusing me of jealousy and fabricating evidence. However, the irrefutable proof and the assurance of my lawyers left him speechless. I served him the divorce papers and he appeared on the verge of fainting. Despite his denials, even Grace could see through his lies. He began apologizing and claimed it was all a misunderstanding. Realizing the severity of the situation, he was advised to involve his lawyers. My lawyers assured me that Matt wouldn't be escaping the consequences of his actions anytime soon. The situation kept unraveling for Matt as it was revealed that the work permit he obtained was illegal. This added another layer to his troubles, which frankly was a relief for me. Finally, he would have to face the consequences of his actions. The upcoming divorce trial promises to be messy, with Matt facing questions about his fraudulent visa. Meanwhile, Grace is shattered, realizing she fell for his deceitful lies. My parents are at a loss, unsure how to navigate the fallout with either of us. As everything remains in turmoil, I can't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction. Does that make me a bad person? Matt wreaked havoc on my life, and part of me feels like I'm just getting a taste of justice. Amidst all this chaos and uncertainty, I find myself grappling with conflicting emotions. Could I have handled this situation better? Update. Hello everyone, it's been some time and I have some updates to share. Firstly, I want to address some comments I've received. Yes, Matt knew Grace since she was 12, a literal child. While their affair occurred when she was technically an adult, it doesn't change the fact that his actions were predatory and disturbing. She was like a child to me, and the idea of Matt being interested in her in any way beyond a familial relationship disgusts me. I mention this because I've seen some men in the comments defending Matt or suggesting Grace shares equal blame, which is simply not the case. I want to clarify that Grace isn't devoid of responsibility. She's been grappling with her own struggles, including mental health issues and addictions, for quite some time. She was in a vulnerable state, and Matt took advantage of that vulnerability. He knew she had admired him for years and deliberately preyed on her susceptibility. While both of them committed reprehensible acts, Matt's actions reveal him to be a truly despicable person, exploiting all of us in such a callous manner. Many of you have asked for updates on Matt's Thai girlfriend. Out of respect for her privacy, I won't divulge much here. However, she has been in communication with Matt for over 2 years now, completely unaware of our existence. Matt deceived her, claiming to be single and even sending her money monthly. He made false promises of working in Thailand for a while, marrying her and bringing her to the US. It's all lies, of course. While I haven't personally spoken to her, my lawyers have been in touch and she now knows the truth. As for Grace, our last interaction didn't end well. She accused me of ruining her life, insisting that if I truly cared for her, I should have turned a blind eye and left Matt alone. I reminded her that Matt didn't love her and was planning to abandon her with his baby. The way Grace is behaving now, I'm starting to feel like it might be better for both of us if she wasn't a part of my life anymore. I know it might sound harsh, but honestly, I've reached a point where I just don't care. As for Matt, since he only possessed an illegal work permit and wasn't actively using it in Thailand, technically he wasn't doing anything illegal. It would only become illegal if he were caught using it, so legally, he's off the hook for that. Regarding the divorce, Matt's lawyers have been trying to portray me in the worst light possible. They even went as far as demanding shares from my company. Fortunately, we quickly shut that down. My business is solely in my name, and Matt has no entitlement to it. My lawyers have ensured that I won't have to give him anything. Once the baby is born, he'll be required to pay child support. We haven't determined the exact amount yet. Additionally, I'll have full custody of the child. That's pretty much all the latest information I have for now. We have a court hearing coming up in a few days, so I'll keep you updated. Update 2, just a quick update on how I'm doing. I'm hanging in there. I'm currently 4 months pregnant and still dealing with gestational diabetes, which puts me at high risk. However, the baby is doing great, which brings me a lot of comfort. Navigating through pregnancy under these circumstances wasn't something I ever anticipated, but I'm grateful to have my parents supporting me every step of the way. Whenever I see the ultrasound pictures, I feel a surge of excitement and anticipation to meet my child. I know they won't be born into a perfect family, but I'm determined to give them all the love and support they need. I'm committed to being there for my child, even though Grace is likely around 7 months pregnant herself. That's pretty much all I know about her situation right now. I'd really appreciate it if you could continue to keep me in your prayers. Update 3. Hey everyone, sorry for being MIA for so long. I've got some good news to share. I recently welcomed a beautiful baby girl into the world. She arrived a bit earlier than expected and had to spend a few days in the NICU, but she's out now and doing really well. I also underwent an emergency C-section, but I'm recovering fine. It was a stressful time, but I'm relieved it's over. On another positive note, my divorce has been finalized. It was a messy process, but with the help of my strong legal team, all my demands were met. Matt tried to paint me as the villain, claiming I trapped him with a baby for child support after he left, but that didn't hold up. I was granted full custody of our daughter. As for Matt, we're not on good terms. He attempted to lower his child support payments but failed. He's also responsible for repaying the loans he took out. I don't know how he'll manage that, but it's not my concern. He hasn't even met his daughter or shown up for the court proceedings. Honestly, I feel like I dodged a bullet. My daughter deserves better than him in her life. Grace also had her baby, a girl, a couple of months before I did. I haven't met either of them and I don't plan to anytime soon. My parents are the only connection between us, trying to reconcile, but her betrayal is still fresh in my mind. I know Matt manipulated her, but she should have known better. Despite everything, I still love and care for her, but trust will take time to rebuild. I'm focused on piecing my life back together, prioritizing my business and my child. To those in love, a word of caution. Matt seemed like the perfect partner, publicly declaring his love and treating me well, but he still cheated without any warning signs. So choose wisely and remember, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Take care.